Hi, my name is Leonardo Giron Torres. I'm a former STREB Extreme Action Engineer for 10 years. And today I want to tell you a little story about one of my favorite pieces, but also one of the hardest I ever did to my STREB experience. It's a human fountain. Human fountain, it was a piece that consisted of a three-tier scaffolding structure that was anchored to the ground, and it had mats that surrounded the structure for bodies to land on. And so the choreography consisted of creating patterns in the air, flying, falling, landing, getting up, running as fast as you could. You had to repeat this over and over and over again, depending on the number of dives you had. And each dancer had anywhere between 15 to 25 dives. And the more dives you had, the harder the piece got for you. So you really had to be smart about saving your breath, about saving your energy, because the only breathing time that you had was when you were falling and when you were flying. Human Fountain was a piece that really tested your physical potential to the maximum, both mentally and physically. It tested your strength, it tested your will, it tested your ability to keep going because of its intensity, of how hard it was to get through it. I saw blood in this piece. I saw people break down to tears because of the intensity. You had to be in the right mindset to get through it. But once you got through it, it was just an extraordinary journey for about 15 to 20 minutes. You never forgot how you felt when you took that last final dive after that incredible journey. It was just very freeing. Like I said, it tested every bone in my body. Yes, it was the hardest I've ever done. But if Elizabeth STREB called me tomorrow and said, "Hey Leo, I got a spot for you at Human Fountain," I'll be there in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Each move was different. Each experience was different. All the dancers recreated different moves, choreographing this piece. And I think one of the moves that always make me skip a beat, that I always was nervous about, was a famous Houdini. A Houdini is a move that you dive first, head first, to the ground, and as you're falling head first, at the last minute you rotate 90 degrees and you fall on your back. And so the potential for danger was really high. If you did this move wrong, you could get seriously injured. But it was exhilarating to do it, even though my heart would pound every time I had to do it. And I think I did this move in the choreography with the amazing John Caston from Level 3. But it was one of those moves that every time I stepped to the edge and that moment came, questioned my life, questioned my sanity at that moment. But once it was done, I felt invincible. There was one other move that I wanted to try that only one extreme action engineer tried, Felix Hess, and it was a dive from Level 4, which was a dive from more than 30 feet up in the air, and he was the only one to accomplish this yet so far. I don't know, maybe Elizabeth, I'm sure, will try to push boundaries and keep exploring that height, but he took that dive from more than 30 feet and lived to tell the tale. And my curiosity never stopped about that move, and I'm sure if we go back to Human Fountain, maybe I'll be brave enough to take it. It was one of those pieces that you really had to know the choreography, because safety was a priority. You had to be very vocal every time you took off from a platform, because your safety and the safety of others depended on it. So you had to be very active and very aware of your surroundings. Not only that, you had to know your choreography, but you also had to know other people's choreography to be aware of what was going on. Because if you were taking from level 1, you can see somebody from level 3 that was diving. So you had to be vocalized, I'm going at this time. And so the person from level 2 or level 3 know that you were actually flying through the air. You know, unfortunately, two bodies can't occupy the same space at the same time. And I think the closest I ever saw this was when action engineer Cassandra Joseph and Samantha Jacobs take off from different levels, and they're on a collision course in the air that could have been fatal. And in fractions of a second, Cassandra turns around, pushes Sammy in the middle of the air, turns back around and lands safely on the mat, and so does Sammy. And everybody's jaw just dropped to the floor because it just was so fast and so intuitive to keep her safe, you know, keep herself safe and keep her other dancers safe. That was just unbelievable to watch. So you had to really, really aware. You had to be really conscious of what was going on around you, because mistakes like that could happen. And at Slam, we were limited by the ceiling, but when we performed this piece outside, it was just liberating. The experience of flying free in the sky for a fraction of a second was just very, very freeing. We performed this piece at Slam, of course, and at the Armory on the Upper East Side. We performed this in Fall for Dance at the Delacorte Theater in Central Park, and River to River Festival near the World Trade Center. And I think one of the most memorable ones was at the London 2012 Olympics, where we hire a crew of 22 dancers from London to help us with this piece. So it was about 34 dancers flying through the air. It was beautiful to watch. It was an amazing experience.